You know the vibes. Welcome back to another week of the Hoop Genius podcast presented by NBA 2K23. Momutsi BJ Armstrong rocking out as usual. BJ, it's been an eventful weekend around the NBA.
What's happened, Mo? Has anything happened I'm not aware of?
Well, there's a lot of things, and we're going to dive into all of them. The first thing that happened is a franchise that claims to be one of the greatest franchises of all time. They call themselves a storied, historic franchise. They won their first game of the season after 5 attempts, and they celebrated as if they had just won a championship. Which
Who might that be, Mo? Who might that be?
Los Angeles Lakers won their first game of the season, and they may as well have had a victory parade around town afterwards because the way they celebrated, wow, congratulations to them. I'm happy for them.
They should celebrate, Mo. That's Darvin Ham's first win as a head coach. Come on.
Yes, monumentous.
Have some empathy.
I know. They should celebrate.
Coach Ham.
We don't know how many more wins they're going to get, so they make the most of all of them.
It's all about Coach Ham right now. It's all about Coach Ham.
Yeah. Shout out to the coach. The team shouldn't be celebrating though. They should be ashamed. Anyway, speaking of being ashamed, this is a horrible segue. Speaking of being ashamed, Josh Primo should be ashamed as he was waived by the San Antonio Spurs.
I'm not touching that one.
That was the worst segue of all time. Anyway, Josh Primo, we're not going to talk about what he did. If you want to know what he did, go on Google and type in his name. Anyway, promising player, cut by the San Antonio Spurs. I believe he was the youngest player in last year's draft. He went unclaimed on waivers. I want to know which desperate team is going to be the first to sign him. Do you have any guesses?
Why do they have to be desperate?
Because people who do what he did should be arrested, not signed to other NBA rosters. This may be the longest BJ Armstrong pause in the history of the podcast.
You didn't hear me. I'm not pausing. I said I'm not touching it. And I said that.
I'm saying if a team signs him, they're desperate. He shouldn't be signed. No, that's outrageous what he did. He should go and get help. He should go and get the help he needs to get back into a good place where he doesn't do what he did again. That's all I'm going to say on it.
Okay.
Sending positivity to all the people affected by his actions. But anyway, more segues for you, BJ. Whilst his crimes are being investigated, the crimes of the Philadelphia 76ers were also investigated, and the NBA has docked them 2 second-round picks for their free agency tampering of PJ Tucker and Daniel House. Are we going to talk about this one, or are you seeing this one out too?
Sure.
Now, this isn't the first time we've seen this. The NBA has previously taken a second-round pick away from Miami for their free agency. Was it for Kyle Lowry?
I think so. I think you're correct.
So it's not the first time it's happened, but they only lost one, and Philly have been lost their second-round picks as well. Sorry, I was just double-checking. It was not just the Miami Heat last season. The Bucks were forced to forfeit a second-round pick for an illegal sign and trade with the Kings for Bogdan Bogdanovic. How interesting that would have been, because that would have changed the whole dynamic of their team. Who knows if they would have gone on to win the 2021 NBA championship. And same way if they had signed Bogdanovic, how would they have done last year as well? But the Heat also engaged in some shenanigans to do with Mr. Kyle Lowry last season.
Wasn't the Bulls were, this happened to the Bulls as well, right? Didn't this happen to the Bulls?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
With LaMelo, didn't something happen with LaMelo?
LaMelo Ball? I don't think so, because that.
Lonzo. Sorry, with Lonzo.
They investigated that, but then they didn't have any sort of punishment.
I think they did. I think they do.
Did they?
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah.
Oh no, they did. I'm wrong. The Chicago Bulls lost their second-round draft pick due to a tampering violation, due to the sign and trade. That's why that one was a little bit different. So that was a sign and trade going on over there. So it's interesting to me. The Sixers have lost 2023 and 2024 second-round picks, And the New York Knicks are still under investigation for their signing of Jalen Brunson, because, of course, the New York Knicks hiring his father last season had nothing to do with his son joining them in the offseason. And there's absolutely no rumors about Jalen Brunson signing with the Knicks before the season ended. It came out of nowhere and it shocked us all. Or not. Anyway, what do you make of the Sixers losing their 2 second-round picks? A fair punishment for the crime?
Well, I've been in this business way too long, and a lot of things happen. And the bigger question is, how do you police this? I mean, I don't know how you're going to police this, how you're going to stop this. And I just don't know. And you can't tell me there aren't, whether it's by accident, coincidence, luck, it's impossible to build a team and just go to free agency and then all of a sudden say, okay, this is who we want, and we're going to call them at 12:01 or whatever this may be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the way it's currently done is a little outdated. And I think when I say I think we have to put in some type of common sense into this equation here to say, people are going to try to build their teams. Players are going to talk. Players are going to talk to one another. You're talking about the future. I don't know another place where you can't discuss openly how something would work, for your,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's going to, the players are all friends with each other. They're going to talk regardless. If a team wants to get a message to another player, that's going to happen. Look at how the Miami Heat Big Three came together after the Olympics. All of those guys together.
I
don't
know what's the big deal. Like, listen,
I don't think it's a problem.
I don't think it's a problem either. But what do I know? I think more. I think the problem is, once a player decides to leave, there's nothing you can do. If you're always excited to get that player, but I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to police that.
Okay. Well, speaking of police, I think that a lot of people in Los Angeles need to be arrested right now, because not only do the Lakers absolutely stink, they need to be arrested for stinking, because the Lakers 1-5 stink. But surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, the Clippers are on a 4-game losing streak, stinking up the place.
Let's talk about these Clippers.
But this is more serious now. Kawhi Leonard already missing action. It's going to be 6 games in total that he misses before he can return. And that's if he does return. How worried are you about these Clippers?
Well, I'm not going to use the word worried, but I am very, very, very concerned.
Back-to-back losses against the OKC Thunder.
I'm very concerned with this team. I'm very concerned with this group. How come? Well, their best player, Kawhi, now, Mo, I don't know what to say. When he plays, he's absolutely sensational. However, Mo, it's impossible to build a team around your best player who never plays or practices.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm getting to the facts here. We're not talking about when he does play. We're talking about it's impossible to build a team around any player who doesn't play in the games and who doesn't practice.
Well, you can't win if you don't play.
You can't win. You can't build any cohesiveness amongst the group. No chemistry, no timing. It's impossible. Substitutions,
rotations.
You can't. So I'm at a point, Mo, where I've kind of come to the conclusion that he just can't play anymore.
Wow.
Like
at all.
I've done come. Well, Mo, his body, first it was his quad, right? It was his quad, and then
ACL,
and something is going on here. You know, everyone's telling me he's working out and he's getting ready, but at some point you have to play. You have to play. Like the load management and all of that stuff. Like, I get it. It sounds good in theory. Load management sounds great in theory. It really does. However, it's impossible. It doesn't work in real life. You can't load manage and get better. There's no way to get better other than practicing and playing in the game.
I think it's tricky because load management.
What's tricky about it?
Because load management, Kawhi did a whole lot of load management the year he won a championship with the Raptors. Okay. But the difference is this. The Raptors were already a squad that had been together for a long time. The changes that were made was simply swapping out DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard and then swapping out JV for Marc Gasol, who's a more experienced player anyway.
Well, here's the difference.
So he got dropped into that Toronto team that all the pieces were already gelled together, and he was the cherry on the top of the cake. Whereas this Clippers team is basically brand new. They've never really had a serious run, all healthy, all together at the same time.
That's one way to look at it. I'm going to state what I saw. JV for Marc Gasol, no. Marc Gasol, no. No, you're not selling me on that one. Okay, Serge Ibaka was absolutely, he was just sensational in that run. That's the first thing. Second,
Marc Gasol was good as well.
Okay, I'm just telling you what I saw. You might have saw something else different. I'm just telling you what I saw. Second thing, that team was not built around Kawhi Leonard. And Kawhi, they weren't committed to him other than that 1 year. That's the difference. Now you've built your entire organization around a player, and that is always predicated on performance. They've built the team around him first, and then Paul George. They've committed to him. They've committed to the organization. They've done everything that they need to do other than the one thing that they've committed to first, which is Kawhi Leonard, you have to play.
Well,
and I'm not doubting that he's not hurt. I'm not. Listen, sometimes injuries are part of the game. I have no doubt that he's hurt. However, it's time to say this is where his body is at. Like, he's not getting any younger. It's not going to get any better. So how are we going to build a team around a player when he plays? He's a top 10 player in this league. No doubt about it.
He's played 2 games so far this season. Come off the bench in both of those. He's averaged 12.5 points, 6.5 rebounds in 20 minutes per game that he's played, both appearances coming off the bench so far for the Clippers this season. So even with that, I don't know if he is still the Kawhi Leonard we saw in 2019.
No, that's my point. When he plays, starter minutes, 35 plus minutes, he is terrific. You're not going to get him playing in 20 minutes as if he's a top 10 player in this league. That's not enough time to affect the game. So if he's only going to play 20 minutes in 30 games or 35 games, then let's move on from building a team around him. Let's move on from that and then go accordingly. But if we're going to build a team around him, if we're going to pay him as if he's the best player on the team, one of the top players in the league, then what we're seeing here is that's impossible, because that's not going to work. It's impossible. Like, when he plays, I have no problem. It's not like he's not effective.
Well, he hasn't played this season properly. He hasn't played the whole of last season, and then he ended the previous season injured in the Western Conference semifinal against the Utah Jazz.
He hasn't looked the same since they won there in Toronto, if you ask me. And you keep waiting on it, but it seemed like it's getting worse from year to year. I mean, hopefully, Mo, this is something that they're just managing, right? And maybe this was the part of the plan, but certainly right now, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned.
What would you do if you were the Clippers right now?
There's nothing you can do. Everything's been committed. What can you do? You have to hope that he plays. That's all you can do right now.
Well,
what are you going to do?
It's time for Mr. Paul George to step up and become the leader of that team. It seems to be the only option that you've got. And this is the beauty of trading your whole future for Paul George. In case something happens to Kawhi, you've got him there.
You hope he plays. Listen, you hope that Kawhi Leonard, because it doesn't matter. If Kawhi Leonard doesn't perform, they have no chance.
Mm-hmm.
If Paul George averages 40 a night, it doesn't matter. You're going to need Kawhi Leonard if you're going to win this whole thing. Yeah. And right now, they have a roster with that idea in mind. So if Paul George comes out and wins MVP this year, you still need Kawhi Leonard. That's it. So, I'm not putting that on Kawhi Leonard. You do need on Paul George.
You do need Kawhi Leonard. You need both of them, in fact. And the reason why you need both of them is because the Western Conference is actually very strong. And both of them together had to join forces to take down a 21-year-old Luka Doncic, who's dropping game winners all over them, not just once, but in 2 seasons in a row in the playoffs. But speaking of Luka Doncic, he's become the first player to score 30-plus points in each of the first 6 games of the season since, do you know? Who is the last player to score over 30 points in the first 6 games?
Jordan, Kobe?
Yes, Jordan.
Okay.
First player since 86, a young Jordan as well. So, Luka's looking
that's a lot of points. That's a lot. That's too many points. It's too many points. That's hard to do. It's hard to play. It's hard for the other guys to get some chemistry. I mean, I know that it's great stats and great individual accolades, and give Luka credit, but that's just too much, especially in today's game. The way you play, you got to get that ball. You got to get it. You got to. It has to be a balance into how you play.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a balance. And right now, watching, I saw them lose the other night too. Was it OKC? Is that who they lost to the other night?
The Clippers or the Mavs?
The Mavs. The Mavs, I think they lost to OKC.
OKC have been on a nice little run.
Yeah, I think they lost to OKC.
Yep.
And those games concern me because Luka played.
Yep. And they're always close until the very end, like the Pelicans game on the weekend.
It's just you can't win that way with him. I get it. He's that good. I get it. It's the seduction of giving him the ball because he's that good. However, with that talent becomes a responsibility where he's got to figure out how to put the balance into the game.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to, because he can play this way and they can still win 45, 50 games. No doubt about it. He'll win his fair share of games. He's that good.
Mm-hmm.
However, if he can, when you start seeing talents like that lose to teams that we know are trying to tank,
mm-hmm.
we know what OKC is
I mean, we have to give some credit though. 3-0 this week. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander averaging 30-something a game over those 3 wins. Shai in OKC, SGA. He's been playing really well. Lou Dort's been locking up on defense. You've got to give them some credit. Like, as much as the organization wants to lose, the players still go out there and say, well, we don't want to lose. We're going to come out here and play credit.
But I think when you look at the roster, I'm looking at the team. Okay, Shai gets 30, Luka gets 30. We should be able to, our team should be better than their team.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Mo, I'm not saying the stats. You get 30, Dominique gets 30, Jordan gets 30. Okay. Well, give some responsibility to, that's why they call it a team.
Mm-hmm. Well, Isaiah Joe's been looking nice since they picked him up in OKC.
Okay. Now, if you're telling me Luke Dort is the second option on a championship quality team, let's talk about that.
I didn't say they were a championship quality team.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we have a team that made it to the conference finals.
Mm-hmm.
They should be able to figure out, if they're serious, how to beat a team like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just the same way I'm saying, okay, Clippers, I'm not disrespecting OKC. The Clippers should be able to figure out with that roster We are, well, at least I said it. I don't know how many other people said it. I think the Clippers are the deepest team in the league.
Everyone
right
was
now.
talking about their depth. Everyone.
Everyone's talking about it, the owners and the media and the players. We're here to win a championship, and then they lose back-to-back games in OKC. Well, what's going on?
Mhm.
Well, what's happening here?
Well, I mean, a lot of their players were out for those games, but that's the whole point of having a deep squad. I think the thing this season is that there's not really any games that you can just look on the schedule and say that's a guaranteed win. Even when you're looking at teams like the Orlando Magic, they're going to come out, they're going to play hard, their guys are going to step up. Bobo is going to put a smile on BJ's face. Same with the Pistons. They're not a guaranteed win against them. Same with the Pacers. You know, like the Nets tonight almost threw away a 24-point lead, and they managed to hold on at the very end to win. But I want to talk about your Pistons because their newly acquired Bojan Bogdanovic agreed to a 2-year, $39 million extension. I wanted to get your take on that.
I thought that was very good. That was very well done by the Pistons. And if I'm not mistaken, where I read it was first year is fully guaranteed. The second year, partial guarantee with a player of that caliber. That's a great contract for the Pistons. Mm-hmm. Great contract for Bogdanovic at his age.
I think he was looking for a longer term contract, but you're not going to complain about $39 million for 2 years. I mean,
he's 34 years old. I mean, he's 34. I mean,
is he 34?
He's 34.
Oh, yeah, he's turning 34 this season. But like, yeah, he's putting up 23 points a game this season, and his floor spacing is vital to guys like Ivy and Cade attacking it on the inside.
Well, we're talking about 4 or 5 games.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
You say he's put up 23 this season. We've only played like 4 or 5 games.
And in those 4 or 5 games, he's put up 23.
Let's get about 50, 60 games under our belt.
Okay. You know what I mean?
And if he's putting up 23.
There are certain teams out there who would love for just 5 games to have a guy that can shoot 50% from the field from 3 and put up 23 games. There's certain teams out there who need that.
There's been a lot of players who've put up 20 points in a week. Okay. I'm not taking anything away. Yeah. You know, that's nice. That's great. However, he's 34 and that was a nice deal. That's a nice deal for everyone involved. Nice deal for him. Congrats. Nice deal for the Pistons. And you know what? The Pistons next summer in free agency, they're going to have one of the most money in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a good deal. I mean, the Pistons are set up nice. Now they just have to go out there and show improvement, and they got to play. So I think Bogdanovic will have a chance to go out there and prove his value with his leadership, his professionalism, and the consistency in which he plays. I mean, he's a true professional in every sense of the word. Mm-hmm. Put it like this. I think every championship caliber team would love to have him on their team.
Yeah.
That's how high I regard him. He's a pro's pro. Now,
mm-hmm.
And I think the Pistons did a good job by rewarding that, knowing that they need players like that to help their young guys. So I think the biggest mistake that we make as executives in this league is adding veterans, but then they don't play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's a little dark secret in the NBA. I haven't met a veteran yet who's trying to mentor a young guy to take his position. Okay.
It sounds good, though.
It sounds good.
Udonis Haslem may be the only exception.
It's not Udonis. That's a championship team. So when you have a championship caliber team, no coach wants to do the following. The coach knows he's only going to play eight guys max. Mm-hmm. The 5 starters are going to play 30 plus minutes. And then that means that the other guys, there's 18 other minutes to play and divide up. Okay. Your mm-hmm. best player is going to play 35 to 40 minutes. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now you're looking at 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes where a guy's going to play. All right. Here's what a head coach doesn't want. He doesn't want the guy 9, 10, 11, 12 sitting at the end of the bench complaining about not getting in the game.
Yeah.
Okay. If we're going to be honest, let's be honest. Let's talk about roster construction. You don't want to coach a team where the 11th and 12th guy is complaining in your office every day talking about, coach, when I'm going to get in. Udonis Haslem fits what they're trying to do there. Why? Because they need someone who's going to hold everyone accountable. Check. You need a pro's pro. Check. And I don't need to worry about playing time because my rotation is already set. When you're on a good team, you're not coming to training camp to earn a spot. The rotations are already set. You're coming there to get your conditioning ready to make a championship caliber run. Now, when you're on a young team, and if you got Udonis Haslem on a young team, that role doesn't fit what he brings at this stage of his career. But what it does fit is if a young Udonis Haslem is able to play, and he's able to play and perform, right? Talking about it in the locker room and doing it on the floor is two different things.
Yeah.
And that's where Bojan, I think, is very valuable to this team, is because he can still play.
Yeah.
He's a pro.
He can average 23 points in 2 weeks.
In a week, yeah. And let's see.
Udonis Haslem got minutes the other night. You know, I was watching the game the other night, BJ. I was watching the Heat versus the Kings. It's always questionable when you tune in to watch the Kings. Anyway, I've seen Udonis Haslem taking jump shots in the game, not in the warm-ups. Yeah. In the game, I've seen Sabonis steamroll him and knock him to the floor. I go, come on, man. I'm going to go get some food or something because this is getting crazy. But that was an eventful weekend around the NBA. And before BJ starts making his Detroit championship aspirations well known, we're going to have to end the show there for today. We'll be back tomorrow with more, doing what we do. So make sure you give it a review, leave a rating. Make sure you subscribe to the show, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're at. Stay rocking with us. We ain't going nowhere. We're here all season long. You're listening to the Hoop Genius podcast presented by NBA 2K23. And until next time, do you know what you need to do? You know, if you just get a little piece of trash and throw it in the rubbish bin, into the trash can, and it goes in, celebrate. Celebrate like you won a championship. Because this week is all about celebrating the small wins in your life. Pour an ice bucket over someone's head. Celebrate. Even if it's just a really small win. You've got to treat everything like it's a championship. Most importantly, get buckets.